Hey guys, great to be live with you again. Well, a few things going on in the poultry department. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, 30 million egg-laying hens have been lost due to bird flu since the start of the year, just in the US. Now, Nature is reporting that 77 million birds have been killed or culled to stop the spread of this bird flu that is actually spreading across the US, North America, Europe, and Asia, apparently. The price of wholesale eggs has jumped. I'm going to show you the graphs on this. And if you're thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I should just raise my own egg laying hens, well, the feds are conducting a probe on those who choose to have backyard chickens. So it's a strange time to be alive. And I can't wait to show you all the data on this. Before we get into it, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. So a new study confirms older looking faces are rated as less attractive than younger looking faces. This is from NIH.gov. The study goes on to explain that younger looking faces are treated as a category when making aesthetic judgments, and that unfortunately for women, men distinguish most clearly between faces when judging attractiveness, especially so for female faces. The older you look, the tougher it'll be for you in the dating market, and harder it will be to find the love of your life, according to the study. Luckily, we found a new product that is helping women all over the world by helping them reduce dark spots, sagging skin, and crow's feet. This new serum is rising in popularity for delivering a boost of youthfulness to users' skin. Using this rejuvenating serum can provide smoother, firmer, younger-looking skin in as little as 7 days. Of course, it works for men too, not just women. You may not even recognize yourself in the mirror. It's Ageless Glow. I use it as well. If this sounds like something you want to try, don't wait, because they have sold out previously, and it can take a while to restock inventory. I'm warning you now in case you go to their site and see sold out. So if you want it, grab it now. Plus, I've been able to grab my audience up to 38% off when you click my link down below. It's glowwithivory.com. Link down in my description. Glowwithivory.com saves you 38% off Ageless Glow. With that being said, I want to show you the USDA's website directly. Let's look at what is going on with these egg-laying hens. So this is the egg market overview for the week leading up to June 17th. So just the most recent data on this. They're saying here, USDA is saying the price for national trading of truck lot quantities of graded loose white large shell eggs increased 37 cents to $1.86 per dozen with a firm undertone. That is a gigantic jump. 37 cents to $1.85 per dozen. This is wholesale numbers. And you see the graph right here. This red line is 2022. The blue line is 2021. And then there's a dotted line that might be hard to see. That is 2020. So as you can see here, we are in June. All the way from March through June, the price of wholesale eggs has been absolutely monstrously higher than the previous years. Of course, that dotted line for 2020 had a giant jump March through April when everyone was buying out all the stores, as you recall, at the start of the pandemic. So the prices this year jumped back up to the prices from that era. And I wonder if it has to do with the monstrous loss of birds due to bird flu. We're talking poultry birds, mainly chickens. So drastically higher prices than last year, according to USDA. I have this link down in my description if you want to go over it yourself. Now, if you scroll down, They go into detail about the loss of these chickens. It says here commercial table egg layers lost to HPAI, which is highly pathogenic avian influenza. It says they have lost so far this year 30,700,000. So over 30 million egg laying hens lost. I'm assuming that means dead. The first big case of commercial egg laying hens being lost happened in February. And since then, it's just been countless huge losses of chickens, millions of chickens at various commercial egg laying farms across the nation. You can see Delaware, Maryland, Iowa, Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa, South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, 3 different places in Pennsylvania, Utah, Pennsylvania again, Nebraska, Colorado, a couple of places in Pennsylvania, and then Colorado, all just this year. And the biggest ones being in Iowa, where a couple of different farms lost more than 5 million chickens to this avian influenza. And it seems like, this has been happening over the past few months, and it seems like it's just been crickets from the media about what's been going on. In fact, instead, I've been seeing fact check articles trying to calm people down about the fact that we're seeing huge losses in our egg supply, and what's that going to do to prices? Well, you saw the wholesale price jump in the graph that I showed you, linked down below. Now, I also want to show you this USDA.gov link, which I have linked down below as well. 2022 confirmations of highly pathogenic avian influenza in commercial and backyard flocks. Says here that 36 states have been affected with these outbreaks of avian flu. The worst being Iowa, those giant 5 million plus losses of egg-laying hens. It says altogether 40 million birds have been affected. USDA says just 30 million have been lost. So I guess 10 million birds may have been affected and then recovered. Or perhaps they weren't a part of the commercial egg-laying industry. That's probably more likely. There's also been commercial duck farms that have been impacted by this. And they go through in detail the various locations where this has happened and how many birds have been affected. And almost all of the big egg outbreaks have been in commercial egg laying. You see a couple of like ducks and turkeys, but mainly just those egg laying hens being absolutely knocked out. Here we have in Iowa and Minnesota, commercial turkey meat breeders got hit with this avian flu. 40, anywhere from 20 to 40,000 turkey meat birds impacted at each location. So what is going on? It is a bad outbreak of avian flu, and we're not hearing much about it. And why is this happening? I want to show you a Nature article that did cover this. Nature is talking about these farmers killing their flocks due to this bird flu. Here it is, nature.com. Why unprecedented bird flu outbreaks sweeping the world are concerning scientists. Mass infections in wild birds pose a significant risk to vulnerable species and are hard to contain and increase the opportunity for the virus to spill over into people. Oh boy, not human avian flu. So they talk about, it's called H5N1 is the strain of flu that impacts birds. And they're talking about their concerns about wild birds, because if avian flu hits a poultry farm, it's easier to just keep it contained to that one farm. The problem with when a wild bird gets impacted, wild birds migrate across continents sometimes, and that can really increase the spread. So they're talking about how the poultry birds have been impacted by this flu in Europe, Asia, Africa, and North America so far. They're very concerned that as this avian flu spreads not only through poultry but into wild birds, that it may also spread all the way to South America and Australia. They talk about the virus's origin. So I guess the avian flu, surprise, surprise, first originated in Asia back in 1996. And there have been outbreaks now and then ever since. I believe I read that 2016 was one of the last bad outbreaks, and now we've got it again this spring. They talk here, the big thing I saw was that it says right here, more than 77 million birds have been culled, that means killed, to curb the spread of the virus, which almost always causes severe disease or death in chickens. Another 400,000 non-poultry birds, such as wild birds, have also died in 2,600 outbreaks, twice the number reported during the last major wave in 2016 to 2017. Yeah, so the last big avian flu outbreak was 2016 to 2017, and twice the number of wild birds have already died in 2022 compared to that big outbreak. So this is like a really serious outbreak, and we're not hearing a whole lot from the media on this. And I'm just wondering why. Why do you guys think that is? University of Minnesota studying this H5N1 avian flu, now affecting more than 2/3 of states across the nation, with highly pathogenic H5N1 avian flu now in Washington state and in Oregon. Poultry, for the first time, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service confirms that the disease has now affected 34 U.S. states and led to the demise of 37.5 million poultry. So that was reported May 9th of 2022. Okay, so there you go. USDA, talking about commercial egg-laying hens, said that 30 million had died. But if you add in other poultry, it's all the way up to past 37 million. Pretty severe. Now, they talk about human spread, human cases. The World Health Organization has been looking this year with this huge outbreak of avian flu, whether it's impacting humans, and it has impacted a couple of humans. The University of Minnesota reporting here, quote, the WHO updates involved the first ever U.S. human H5N1 avian flu case, which was first reported on April 28th, and the world's first known human case involving H3N8 strain, different strain of avian flu, which China reported on April 26th. The latter WHO update clarifies the severity of the infection in a young boy. In a May 6th news release, WHO said that the Colorado man reported earlier as a state prison inmate he developed fatigue on April 20th while slaughtering poultry at a commercial farm in Colorado. Guys, I did not realize they were using state prisoners to kill the poultry that we eat. The fried chicken I'm eating is actually prepared by a state prisoner. Anyway, it says that he contracted bird flu while he was slaughtering this poultry as a prisoner. The man was isolated and treated with antiviral medicine. He did not report other symptoms. He was not hospitalized, so it wasn't a big case. But this 4-year-old boy in the Henan province in China, he developed fever, cough, shortness of breath April 5th, was admitted to a hospital in critical condition on April 10th after he developed severe pneumonia with respiratory failure. The boy received antiviral drugs in the intensive care unit. So the Chinese officials confirmed it was an avian flu strain that the boy had on April 24th. China did not update us on that boy's condition, so hopefully the 4-year-old is okay, but pretty serious symptoms according to China, although can we trust anything China says? I'm checking your comments here. It's not an outbreak. They were culled. Yeah, culled means killed. And yeah, so I wonder what is really going on. When like I talked about with the beef cattle that died, I just want to know the incentives that the farmers have from the government. As I talked about, the farming and agricultural industry has been very closely tied to the government through subsidies for many moons. And anytime something unfortunate happens at a farm, the government is right there to cater to the farmer, to help them out with any losses. And you guys reminded me of the Agricultural Adjustment Act passed by FDR in his New Deal back in 1933. The law offered farmers subsidies in exchange for limiting their production of certain crops. The subsidies were meant to limit overproduction so that crop prices could increase. What a goofy idea. FDR is legendary for introducing goofy socialist ideas and introducing the use of subsidies in farming, which never went away. So I'm just wondering, how big is the subsidy for a farmer who loses 2 million chickens in Nebraska versus the farmer actually harvesting those eggs and not losing? Does the farmer, how much more money does the farmer get? I'm just wondering about the incentives here. So this actually happened in April. There's a headline out of Nebraska, quote, bird flu contaminates 2.1 million chickens in Nebraska's Knox County. It says here the Nebraska Department of Agriculture says a flock of 2.1 million laying hens will be euthanized on the farm. So they decide that their chickens have the flu, so they have to kill all 2.1 million of them. Quote, this is the largest herd to be contaminated in any of Nebraska's avian influenza outbreaks this year. That is a lot of chickens to just euthanize. That's crazy. In order to stop the spread, they're just killing them all. And how much is the government helping out? I want to know. The USDA is not naming the names of these farms. And the news is not going out and talking to the farmers. The farmers are staying pretty low key after these big losses. And then there's another headline. 2 Berks County farms released from avian influenza control area. This is published June 1st. So this is Pennsylvania. And it says here it was a commercial duck breeder and a commercial duck meat bird operation. The 2 farms were confirmed with avian influenza back on May 3rd. So it took almost a month to get the clearance from USDA that the farm was no longer impacted by avian flu. And says, quote, after the control area is released, the infected farm must go through further protocols before they can restock with birds. They have to literally restock. They have to buy new ducklings and start anew after the death of millions of birds. Okay. This is all very interesting because it's not just avian flu that is causing mass death of poultry. Look at this. CBS News reporting tens of thousands of chickens killed in Wright County egg farm fire. This is in Minnesota back on May, happened in May. Quote, massive flames burned down a barn with tens of thousands of chickens in Wright County. My former news station, I used to work there in Minneapolis. My former news station covered this and said there were 200,000 egg-laying hens in this building, and that the farmers were unclear as to how many chickens died, but they said it could have been up to 200,000. So it's unclear whether they lost the entire flock of egg-laying hens. CBS News is reporting this fourth-generation family farm sells more than 3 million eggs a day to some of the nation's largest retailers. So most of you guys probably haven't owned chickens, but I used to own chickens growing up in Wisconsin, and they lay 1 egg a day. So they were actually selling 3 million eggs a day. So it was just one of their buildings that burned down. But that is a lot of eggs, and for them to be impacted, that's, all this adds up to impact our food supply, which is, I think, why we saw at the beginning of the show that jump in wholesale prices of eggs happening right when these big avian flu outbreaks and the fires started to happen this spring. Why is it all happening? This is my former coworker taking this photo. Heidi Wigdahl from Care 11. She rocks. She's my former coworker. Good person. She photographed this devastation at the Wright County egg producer. She says a Wright County egg producer is evaluating the damage left behind from a Saturday night fire. A Forsman Farm spokesperson said they do not have a firm number yet, but he estimates at least tens of thousands of chickens were killed. Pretty crazy. Now, going to World Health Org website, they don't really have information on this. Avian flu does not spread easily to humans at all, which is maybe why this is not getting big mainstream coverage. Literally go to World Health Org. Their most recent data on this is from 2013. It's pretty crazy. They have this map. This is from the year of 2013. There was just literally a handful of cases of avian flu, literally like 10 across the world. So not to worry, not a big deal for humans actually coughing and sneezing. But it is a big deal when you're thinking about, am I going to be able to buy eggs? So Wisconsin actually just today updated their order. They were banning poultry at live events. They just lifted that order today, the state of Wisconsin. So Wisconsin was one of the states where they had the big outbreaks of avian flu, and things seem to be getting better there, according to this article out of Milwaukee local news. End of the article, very interesting. They said state law requires all livestock owners to register where their animals live. Wisconsin is apparently the first state to mandate that you register your chickens, your cows, your goats, your pigs. The government wants to know what sort of animal you have and where it's located. And I think that's extremely intrusive. And I do not like the idea of the government probing into our lives like that and keeping track of how many chickens we own. Why does the government need to know that? So that was interesting. Now, BBC News is talking about the rising cost of poultry. Quote, why chicken is getting more and more expensive. So in the UK, it's bad too. You know, like Nature talked about, this avian flu outbreak is happening across Europe as well. But this article does not talk about anything about the flu. They actually talk about just price of the feed that your chickens eat has gone up. The price of buying chicks, to buy chicks, it's up 14% this year. The price of everything is on the rise. Chicken feed is up 50% over 2 years. Biden's economy sweeping the globe. There is a chick farm, 1.5 million chicks. So it's a bad economy. There's a lot of reasons that the price of your eggs are probably going to go way up. Price of fertilizer is up. Packaging, everything is up right now. And that sucks. It sucks a lot. They were talking about the number of chickens that are actually raised in the United Kingdom. And it was a huge amount. I don't see where it says that anymore, but the UK raises a lot of its own chickens. So, guys, I got to show you how the fact checkers are swarming to make sure that you don't feel that eggs are going up in price too much. So USA Today fact check: egg prices are rising nationwide, but no projection of $12 per dozen. So apparently people talked on social media about the price going up to $12, and USA Today is calming your fears, saying that it is not going to rise that high. USDA did not predict $12 egg prices, they say. The USDA has not predicted egg prices will be $12 by this fall. The director of communications for USDA's Economic Research Service told USA Today. The research service, the division of USDA that predicts and follows agriculture and food trends, does not even forecast specific retail egg prices. They do forecast wholesale egg prices, which is what I showed you guys, which is jumping up quite a bit. Now, I was checking various stores, Walmart and Whole Foods, and let's see, Walmart is saying a dozen eggs is about $2.30. So that is the price there. Now at Whole Foods, the price of eggs goes all the way up to $6.70, but that's for their fancy pasture-raised brown eggs, which, by the way, brown eggs and white eggs, the color of the egg does not mean it's any healthier. It's just a different breed of chicken. But in a lot of cases, brown eggs are more expensive for some reason, which I'm not sure why. Now, it's interesting for all those people who saying, I'm just going to raise my own chickens because things are getting weird in the world. We have this CBS News article, Feds probe multi-state Salmonella outbreak linked to backyard poultry. So now the feds are looking into your backyards to see what the heck is going on, because apparently if you raise chickens yourself, you're probably spreading Salmonella, according to this article this year. Quote, federal health officials are probing several multi-state outbreaks of Salmonella infections linked to backyard poultry, saying more than 200 Americans have been stricken so far this year, with one death reported. By feds, we're talking about the CDC. Now, this is 200 cases of Salmonella. That's compared to, like we said, 30 to 40 million poultry deaths due to avian flu. Salmonella, avian flu, different thing. But they are hyping up Salmonella, even though it's absolutely minuscule compared to avian flu. I just wonder if they are trying to deter Americans from raising their own chickens. But they basically, CDC gave some tips on how to avoid Salmonella. Basically, wash your hands after handling chickens and don't eat outside if the chickens are running around near you. And if you have a little kid, just be careful, because kids like to touch the chickens and then put their hands in their mouths. So that's a synopsis of what they're talking about. Now, I wanted to if you guys, I mean, if you guys do want to get your own backyard chickens, a lot of people are doing that. I wanted to shout out my friend Chicken Mike. He doesn't even know I'm shouting him out right now, but I was going to bring up his garden hen Instagram. I linked this down below on Instagram, garden_hen or the-garden-hen.com. They literally, his family business, they will set up your whole chicken coop for you with the chickens, the coop, everything you need to have a perfect backyard chicken coop yourself. Here's one of his coops. They build the coops themselves. It's pretty cool. But there's a lot of places that you can get your own backyard chicken coop and just start having your own eggs every day. Like I said, each chicken, a healthy chicken, will lay an egg a day. So pretty cool stuff. Says he's followed by Hillary Duff. He may or may not be related to Hillary Duff and may or may not have installed her chicken coop as well. Yeah, a lot of the celebrities, Hollywood elites are doing their own chicken coops now. When Oprah featured Prince William, Prince Henry. I don't follow the royals very closely. The redheaded prince. Oprah interviewed him and his wife, and they had a chicken coop in their backyard. Everyone's doing it. Smart people are doing it. Update on the cattle deaths. The fact checkers are swarming to make sure that you know that it was only the heat that killed the cattle. Nothing else. Factcheck.org. Kansas cattle died after unusual heat wave, contrary to baseless claims online. The quick take, they say, quote, at least 2,000 cattle have died following a heat wave in southwest Kansas. Although the cattle apparently died of heat stroke, social media posts have made baseless claims suggesting that the deaths might be part of a larger conspiracy theory about the food supply. Now, I showed you guys the temperatures, the historic temperatures throughout the decades in southwest Kansas, and every summer it gets deep into the triple digits. 2012, I showed you guys the government's own weather records that show in 2012 the temperature reached 112 degrees in southwest Kansas. But every year it gets up to, 103, 105. So why, what happened this time? It was not just the heat. It was something else. And it's goofy for the fact checkers to swarm and say, don't you dare think that anything else is going on. It was just the heat, guys, just the heat. I just think it probably has to do with something the cattle were eating. More and more cattle are fed worse and worse diets, which then impacts the people who eat the food. If you're eating the meat of a cow that was fed garbage its whole life, then you're consuming garbage yourself. You're consuming all of the pesticides, hormones, and crappy things that cow was eating, which is why it's so important to have grass-fed and finished cattle. If you're going to eat meat, it is very good for you. Grass-fed meat is extremely healthy for you, healthier than being a vegetarian, according to the research I've done. So don't eat these garbage cattle. And let me just say, if the cattle are dying like that and other cattle are surviving, those were the weak, sickly cattle who were probably eating garbage. I want to know what the cattle were eating. I also want to know if those were gene-edited cattle, because USDA or the FDA just gave a thumbs up for gene-edited cattle back in March of this year, as we covered on my last podcast. So I don't know. If the genes are all screwed up and manufactured and fake, are the cattle going to survive the heat as well? I just have a lot more questions. And these are strange times to be alive, you guys. Checking your comments. You're saying aliens. A lot of people are saying aliens. There's those stories about dead cattle with their blood being sucked out of them. People think it's aliens. Who knows? I've seen the stories. How much did the news get paid to say that? Here's the thing. news people don't get paid a whole lot typically. I mean, if you are on TV on national news, then you get paid very well typically. But these little fact check article writers don't get paid very well. But they have been submitted to years of programming and indoctrination. Being in a newsroom for years is being a part of a cult, guys. I've been in these newsrooms. People live in fear of thinking outside the box. It's the crisis of timid journalism. They live in fear of asking the wrong questions. We're in a sad state of affairs in the media when a journalist's mind can't wander to ask a certain question for fear of being fired. My corporate news career began to end when I asked a question outside the narrative. So people don't want their careers to end like mine did. So they are afraid to ask the question. So it's not that they're getting paid to say it was absolutely nothing other than the heat. It's just that they are programmed and led by fear to stick with the narrative, which is whatever, agricultural officials say it is, that is all it is. We will never question what agricultural officials say. Any government official. Media members are programmed. If the government official says that, that is the way and the truth. And so that's the situation. They're just quoting what agriculture department says without question. And so we live in a crisis of timid journalism, which has opened our country up for just endless government corruption because the government knows it won't be questioned by media members. Pretty sad, which is why I'm really glad to be out of there. All right. Yeah, so members of the public are not programmed exactly. Fortunately, more and more members of the public are waking up. A lot of members of the public are programmed because the media keeps drilling into their head that whatever the government says is gospel. But things got weird enough during the pandemic that people started to wake up and think for themselves. So I think for myself a lot more than ever before, I think. So I think a lot of people are on that page. So yeah, let me know more of your thoughts on what's really going on. You can email me, ivory@ivoryhecker.com with any news tips, or write me a comment. That always helps my YouTube algorithm. And let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for tuning in.